Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to everybody. My name's Lauren Price. I'm the treasurer for the International Producers uh, Association. Like to like to get the thing started here. Uh, we're going to have Lauren Yabrando talking about Google Analytics. And for our group, I'm doing such a good job here. The International Association of VR Producers is the only international group of creators for this type of media. We have webinars every month, and this month is Lauren Yabrando with Google Analytics and how that applies to virtual tours. Before I butcher everything up, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to Lauren.
All right, thank you. I'm Lauren Brando, and I'll be giving a presentation today on Google Analytics. You'll notice in the title slide, I crossed off Analytics 4 and I put products. That's kind of a caveat here. This is a learning curve for me. And as I got into this, I realized that Analytics 4 is really just part of an entire suite of products that are helpful for virtual tours. So I'll be covering Analytics 4, but in the context of the entire product suite. I have my contact information here at the bottom of the slide, and I welcome you to, again, this is not my expertise, so if I say something wrong or if you've got suggestions on how to do it better, please either send them directly to me or put them in the chat in the Q&A session. So next slide. Oh, let me get back up. So what I'm going to cover in the topics today is what is Google Analytics 4? Why did it replace Universal Analytics? Some parts of the world that is referred to as GA3. I'll talk about the privacy issues for why that's happened. And it's, there's no going back to it. I'll talk about what is the product line, the various features, Google Analytics 4, the G tag, which is very useful to virtual tour creation, Google Tag Manager, the Search Console, other products like that. I'll talk to how you add Google Analytics 4 to a virtual tour. I'll approach that from the two different methods. One would be if you're using content management systems to build your website, things like Drupal, Wix, WordPress, things like that. Or if you're using what I would refer to as virtual tour builders, 3D Vista, Matterport, things like that. And then talking to if you're building them by hand, if you're coding your pages, HTML5, JavaScript, CSS, which would be the KRPano type of a world. I'll show you a method that I'm using. It's not, I think it's a very clean, very efficient method. It may not be the best code to place in there. So please, if you use it, and you can improve on it, let everyone know. Then I want to get into the important part of this. The first part of it is kind of a mechanical, how do you hook up Analytics 4? There's lots of resources for how to do that. The more interesting is when you collect data, how do you generate reports? And I'll be honest, I'm having a bit of an issue with that one right now. How do I really get good reports, get to the data that I'm interested? I'm finding that Google Analytics 4 tracks so much stuff that I'm buried under all of it. And it's a little bit of a trick for me to get down to the specific stuff. Then I'll show you two case studies. One would be, this is the Smithsonian virtual tour. It'd be the natural history. It'd be all the tours on that server. They were generous enough to give me last month's data, so it's real time. I believe this is probably one of the largest or most trafficked virtual tours there is. So the numbers and what you can see, what you can derive from it's pretty rich. And I'll show you some. I went over the data, and I'll show you a couple of things that I've picked up that are design issues, and that's one of the great features of analytics. Either marketing, you're putting ads out, you're trying to get people to come and visit your virtual tour, or two, you're trying to understand how people are using it, and from the analytics, you're picking up design problems. And I'll show you that. Then I'll do another case study where it's a new virtual tour that I'm working on that, like I just said, it's about advertising. It's a tourism product, so I want to get it out there. I'll be setting up an ad, things like that, and looking at how that analytics is working for me, getting the feedback on that. And then we'll go into a question and answer session. So I entered, I was typing in that page. I'm going to have to use these arrows from now on. Okay. Just to go back up, I wanted to, the point of this group we have here is technical exchange, finding new, cool things. And I don't know if you've ever played with, obviously the AI tools are coming about, and I'm going to show you two uses of AI tools. One, just for this presentation, if you haven't played with Firefly, it's the Adobe AI image creation tool. And there'll be 3 images in this presentation that were created by that. It's kind of a neat tool. This front graphic right here, again, was created. I entered in the kind of what I wanted, a path, Google products, things like that. But play with that, and I'll show you a couple other ones. The next, I have to remember that, darn it. So this is the next image here at the bottom that was created by it. What it's talking about is, why did the Google Analytics 4 come about? And it's really primarily driven by the emerging privacy regulations, mostly out of Europe. It's the general data, GDRP or something like that. But it's the driving requirement. And Universal Analytics went on a session base. So when you started, you opened a window, that's when it started to track you. If you had a product that you have a virtual tour that's on a website, but it's also in an app delivery, or you have an app that takes somebody else, when the person started and they opened up the website on the web, when they went to now go to an app, you were transferring information that violated privacy requirements. So we had to go to, or Google had to go to, an event-based method of tracking people across. And the privacy features that are kind of, I'm moving my window around here a little bit so I can see things. The privacy regulations that are most dominant here are a default IP anonymization, the ability to delete data after a certain amount of time, so you don't sit and collect the data indefinitely, and then a consent mode, which you're starting to see. And these privacy features from a European or from international perspectives, they're starting to be enforced. And you'll see that if you don't have this on your website or a virtual tour, it just may not pop up on those servers. It may not even be accessed by it. The other that's quite interesting with Google Analytics 4 is its predictive analytics, its ability, AI, or machine learning is really a more appropriate here. But as you collect data sets, you can start to get insights. It'll tell you campaigns that are working or pages that are more popular. And you can also start to predict what, if you have an ad campaign, what types of revenues you might eventually see from that. So it's quite powerful. I'm going to do that every single time, aren't I? So now the products, I'm just going to go through them really quickly. The Analytics 4, which is, I kind of like to think of that as the dashboard. That's the one that I'm always going to, and I'm looking at graphs and looking at my data, setting up data streams, and we'll get to that here in a second. The next one is the G tag. It's a JavaScript library, and it's a single tag. It used to be called the global site tag, but I like to think of that as a code-based tag. It's a tag that, as you'll see, I place in HTML pages, in the XML, at the interaction level where a hotspot is being clicked on. I'll be firing this tag at that time. The next one, which I won't go into very much in this presentation, but it's kind of the future, and I'm working on that one, and that's Google Tag Manager. And it eases the management and use of tags. Its goal is that, obviously, most people are not developers. They don't have access to the HTML. They can't go in there and install the tag. So you have a central interface. You install one tag in your HTML, and then in this cloud-based environment, you can set up the custom tags at an interaction level. This will be possible for virtual tours because the Google Tag Manager allows you to track on a class basis. So I'm playing around with a virtual tour where you're building all of your hotspots like button types, if it's a picture frame or it's a navigation arrow, everything is built to a class. So then when the Google Tag Manager is picking up these global events, it's tracking what that event class was. And that's a way in which you can track. I think ultimately that would be the best for your clients, and that you're installing a single piece of code into the launch page. And then your client is able to, through this Google Tag Manager interface, track the data themselves. They don't have to get into the code. The next one I'll cover is the Google Search Console. That's just a tool that's very useful for seeing where you're at in the rankings. What are people using to find you? And again, if you're using analytics, one of the things you'll be possibly using it for is monitoring the effectiveness of an ad campaign. And when you build an ad campaign, you're going to want to know what people are searching on. And that changes with time. So if you have a virtual tour for tourism, I may type in virtual tour tourism, things like that, but I might be missing that there's some festival going on in West Virginia, and people are searching on that month. So it's important to use these tools to get that search. Now I'm going to remember not to click. There we go. Next one I'll cover is the Google Ads. If you haven't seen that, that's a pretty simple one. A little bit out of order here is the next one really is Google Business Profile. That's of importance to us because you can add 360 images to that profile. I'll show you that. And that's how you manage your presence as a virtual tour creator. If you're selling your services, programming, photography, whatever it is, that's that online presence. That's where you go and you enter your hours, things like that. And then the last one, I'm just including it on here. You'll see as you go out and you start to look at analytics, start to look at the Google products, you'll keep coming across Google Analytics 360 or Ads 360 or things like that. That's the enterprise level. All of the other tools are free. The Google Analytics 360 is for the very large corporations, and the starting price at about 50,000 a seat tells you that if any of you out there need this, let me know. I could come work for you guys, but it's not something just stay away from it. It's not something you'll have to even worry about. So now I'm going to get into the mechanics of it now. And I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to cover how you set up analytics if you're using 3D Vista, Pano 2VR, any of those types of programs, or if you're you're hosting on something that's built with WordPress, Wix, things like that. All of that goes through this same initial process, which is to set up a Google Analytics 4 account, then a property, and then a data stream. And I've included this graphic here of kind of the GA4 architecture. The account, most of us would have only one account. You'll see that I made a mistake in setting up mine. I have two accounts. But setting up multiple accounts is, again, for some, you're a large enterprise. You're Boeing or something, and you've got multiple divisions, and you really want to segregate that data. For most of us, a single account is all you need. And then you set up within that account, you set a property. And I'm going to jump to Analytics 4 here after I get done with this slide and just show you this step-by-step process. Don't try to take notes. Don't try to really follow. Just go with the process. At the bottom of this slide, you'll see two links. These are the Google guides. One is video and one is print. I tend to prefer print. Video I find to be a little bit slow. The video one is their certification course. If you're going to get into analytics, you're going to put this in your site, I'd recommend just getting the certification. Go through the entire process. It covers everything. So back to this property, though. Why would you set up two properties? And a property is I like to think of that as it's like the virtual tours or whatever. But why would you set up two? You'll see in my case, I set up a property that covers my entire website. And then I set up a separate property that is for a client's virtual tour that sits on my website. Reason for that is that I can set up an account on that property, which allows my client to log into Google Analytics and look at reports that I might have made, So it's a way for us to, we can go over that data together. I don't have to allow them into my main account. The data stream, there'll be 3 of them, and that's how is the data being collected? Is it a web product, a Mac product, or an Android product? You might create a virtual tour that you have it in each of these 3 stores or genres or whatever, and you collect data off of those. Most of ours will just be a data stream being web. So I'm going to hop over to analytics now. I'm going to go back to home. And you'll see here at the top is the, I'm going to just go right back to this. So at the top here, I have, let me, oh, there it goes. Okay. So I have, you see here at the top here, I have accounts, and I have 3 accounts installed here. One is the demo account. That's Google's merchandise store, which allows you, one of the complicated issues when you start to work with analytics is that there will be a time delay in some when you set up like custom events or you start to make changes. There can be a 24, 2-day period before that data starts getting collected. If you want to play with reports, look at how things are doing, you install this demo account, which has, it's their merchandise store. So it's lots and lots of users. This TSA one that I set up. I set that up as a mistake. I should have set that up underneath my main account. So this is my main account, and you see I've got my main site, and then I have a tour that a client is working on, or it's a client's tour. When I click on the site here, I always get this mixed up. Go back to it again. Oh, okay, sorry. When you're on this page, now this page, if you don't have analytics installed, you'll see a slightly different page. And sign up for an account type of a page. Again, that the tutorials, all of the guidance that's in this PDF, and this PDF is in the chat installed there. Download that and go to that. At the lower, to get to the property, to get to this measurement ID that you'll need for if you're installing it on either, well, in any of them, you click on this admin at the bottom. You'll see the properties. Here's my account that's hooked up, and you have a property. This is my property right now, VC site. You go down to data streams. Where is it? Data streams. This is the data stream. I have a web, so it's showing it's a web product, my website, and it's pulling in traffic from that website. When I click on this data stream, here's the data stream, the URL, my website. This measurement ID, I got to move the Zoom window out of the way. This measurement ID is what I need. So I would copy that, and you'll see here in a second where that code goes. And that's specific to my account. And I either enter that into, let's go back to the presentation here. So you're seeing that you sign in, you click on admin at the left, you click on property, data streams, data stream for your site. Oh, view tag instructions. Let me go back to that and show you one more step to that. And again, don't try to remember this. You'll just see this in the tutorials, but you have view tag instructions. This shows you this piece of code. You just need to copy this code, and you paste this, tells you where to paste it. And at the head section of your web pages, you'll notice that the ID here, right here, that's the ID that's specific to me. It's in 2 places. So if you were to install this, it wouldn't work because it's my ID. So when you set up an account, exact same code, except this ID will be different. Let me go back to the presentation here, up to the next page. And so in this presentation, if you're using 3D Vista, Cloud Pano, Pano TVR, Matterport. Oh, interesting. I could not find for Matterport in internal Google Analytics, but they had a third party, which seemed to have a pretty nice, and again, these all have links, you can click to them. But all of these instructions, they're the same. They tell you to go get that number, that GA4 ID, copy it, and in the interface somewhere, just paste it in. And I think if I go back and let me show you, in here, see, I'm on this tab right here, install manually. If I click on this tab, install with a website builder or CMS, you'll see that it shows you the various, if you're using Drupal, GoDaddy, one of these common ones, click on it and it'll explain how. I think you just, most of the time, you just enter the number in somewhere. So now, if you're doing this by hand, KRPano, or actually, I know that Pano Tour Pro, some of the other ones, even though it's a builder and it produces a virtual tour, it's not closed. You can get to the HTML, you can get into the XML of that. So there'd be no point if you have the ability to just type in the measurement ID and the builder is taking care of the analytics for you. But you can do it this method as well. And there's 3 pieces that need to be added to your code in order to get the analytics working. You'll see here in the yellow, this Google ID. I just have GA4-ID. This would be replaced. But this text right here, now, if you're like me, a lot of times when you look at a piece of text like this, I'm not a programmer I'm not a computer science, I'm an engineer. I go like this and like, oh boy, what am I going to do with this thing? I wanted to show you something. Hopefully you're doing this. Times have changed. So I like, when I see a piece of code I'm a little bit confused about, I copy it. I go over to any one of the AI tools is nice. Bard seems to be a cheap one, an easy one. I call it Alfred, but I'll type here. God, I keep having to move the Zoom window around. Okay, so I'll type in here. I'll type explain : this is an important step. You have to, I'm on a Mac, so I'm right clicking or putting you got to pull up the right select and do paste and match style. Otherwise it'll paste it with formatting and it confuses it. I paste that code segment in, I hit return, and it's going to come back and tell me, explain everything about the code. I'll give it a second. So this code is used to install a G tag on a site, goes through and does everything, explains it all through me. And here's another kind of interesting. Yeah, let me leave that. I was going to show that here in a second. So let me go back to presentation. So you place this within the right after the immediate opening of the head tag. Now that's just the analytics data stream. That number is just on the page. It's telling it to send the data back. You have to add 2 more pieces to make it work. And those 2 pieces are actions and triggers. What triggers this to happen? And then when it happens, what's the action? So I tried to make this as clean as I could. And if you're programming in a KRPano, this should look pretty familiar to you. So the first one is a custom action that has and again, if I look at this and I'm confused by it, copy it, go over to this, explain. So in this case, this is an action that when it's called, it fires it feels like it messed this one up. So it's not always perfect. So in this case, in this first one, what's happening here is it's when this action, GA_scene visited, it fires a tag that it sends along this data stream back to the analytics, an event being a click, and then it adds in a custom event called an event category called a scene, and it's pulling the argument, whatever that scene is, it passes along with it. That's the action. The triggers for a virtual tour, there's primarily 2 triggers. One is when you've entered a scene, a panorama has loaded. Scene is a KRPano term, but it's common to all of them. In this case, the event is on a new pano when you've entered a new scene. It could be In any of the programs, it could be triggered when you enter it as well. When you enter that, it just fires the GA seen visited action. The other common one is when you're clicking on something, a hotspot, whether that hotspot's a navigation arrow on a floor, the hotspot is a button in a menu, it's an object that's going to open a description, and you click on those, again, it fires. These are the code that I'm going to show you here in a second, what this code added to a virtual tour, what it ends up giving you, or what you end up seeing on the website. But I did want to show you one thing here again on the ability of code of the AI tool. So if I grab this piece of code here, go back to this, convert scene to object. And now, man, it's so it should go through and will change the scene out with object. Not a very fancy case here, but yeah, you can see it. So it's changed. So it's changed the event category object of scene over. A useful way that you can do this, if you're working with a client and you're inputting text, you can take text from a Word document, copy that, come in here and hit convert to HTML formatted text, paste the document, and it'll convert it over to HTML formatted text. You can go the other way. So if you're working on editing or you have copy or script in your virtual tour, you can use these AI tools to eliminate the mistakes that you would typically make. But so let me go back to, so these added in at just the rudimentary level within the tour will trigger when I'm entering a new scene or when a person is clicking on various objects in the scene. So now I'm going to go start to kind of cover what are the reports, and then I want to open up Google Analytics and show you some of these reports. There's a number of different types of reports in analytics for. These are the ones that I think are useful. And I'll talk to and I'll show some of these as well. So this first is real time, and that's the live view. It shows you what's coming up or what has happened in the last 30 minutes. And I find it very useful for troubleshooting in if I'm doing design work, right? If I'm working with a team or other people, it's useful. The next report is acquisition, and that shows you how people are finding you. Are they coming in from direct traffic? Is it an organic search? Are they being referred to by other pages? That's very useful for when you're doing marketing and you're doing search engine optimization and you're making tweaks and you're seeing, are you getting more organic traffic if you've added in, all types of meta tags, keywords and descriptions? Are you starting to now pop up on the organic search results? The next one is engagement, and that's engagement and retention are very similar. Engagement is interactions over time, and that's useful. It's metrics like the page view, the session duration, how long a person was on that page, and then the bounce rate. Did they hit your site and then immediately, take off? They didn't, something happened. And that allows you to, I like to think of that as, was it a good episode? Like if I'm producing a television series, was this a good episode? The next one, retention, is engagement. I like to think it's engagement over time. And that's, do people return? There's things called cohort and value analysis, which looks at people's behavior over time. You can, does marketing work for one country, not another? And then the AI tool, something that's incredibly valuable, is if you're having conversions, and conversion is typically think of as a sale being made, right? So there's some monetary value attached to it. And for us, for a virtual tour, that could be booking a tour if you're a real estate person, things like that. But if there's a monetary value attached to the user's behavior, The machine learning can predict over time what the value of that person would be, that individual, based upon their behavior. If they're paying a subscription to a virtual tour or tourism or something, what would they be worth 5 years from now? Things like that. So it allows you to do long-term planning. Your analytics start to turn into monetary things, 5-year plans, things like that. The last one is there's two separate ones, but I dump them together, and they're attributes technical, and that's kind of the design requirements. It's are they mobile device, what type of browser, things like that. And that allows me to optimize the functionality of do I have a good mobile experience, good desktop experience, and am I distributing it correctly? Is it being is it reaching? Is it having some technical problems? And so those are the reports. And okay, so before I get into the case studies, I want to go and just kind of show you now analytics, and I'll go through a couple of the tools that I've talked about, just giving you kind of a flavor of them. So back to analytics here. All right, so you can see this is the home of analytics. I choose my account that I have here, showed you that. I'm on the account, and then I'm on this web property for the website. And I'm seeing, this is real time. I've got a person from Germany that somebody probably on here might have typed on this. And if if other people online start typing in, you would start being picked up where you're at. So this shows me within the last 30 minutes where people are at. It shows me what they're looking at. They came in and looked at the main page. It shows me, click types and things like that. I'm going to go to, so that's the real time one. Again, it's useful if you're doing design work. Like I'd hooked up analytics and I want to see, am I actually collecting data? I might click on this. I could go over here. I'm going to open up a window over here. I'll open up. This is one of the virtual tours, and you can see in the background there, I got another user. It's picking up me as a desktop. The other person was on a mobile, and then it's showing me if I pop out. It's not picking me up yet. So I got somebody in Paris. Okay, there it's picking me up. I'm in West Virginia. It's a little bit off. That's okay. So it's picking and showing me what I'm looking at. I'm in a virtual tour of West Virginia over on this page right here. And if I start clicking on things, hitting things, moving around, jumping between scenes, I'll start to see triggering happening, opening things up. But I'll close that and come out. So you're seeing that virtual tour popped up. Another thing, the other report now, let's go to the next one, engagement. This is acquisition. If I click on this acquisition overview, it's going to show me where the users are coming from, country breakdown. We have an international audience, and it's showing me how they're coming through: direct, paid, organic, referral. Very useful information. What they're going to look at, what they land on. So that's acquisition. And the engagement was I like to look at events. I can look at the overview and it'll show me the engagement time, where people are going at. The one that's kind of important, that I'm interested from a virtual tour, is the interaction level tracking. And so I think I'd mentioned that you get a little bit overwhelmed. Part of the trick of using analytics, at least for virtual tour creators, is the types of reports. I'm having some trouble stripping it down to just the information that I want. You'll see that here under click as an event type, that I have an event, a custom parameter click type. And so I'm picking up whether the person's clicking on a scene, object, arrows, the navigation arrows, or whether they're using the menu to access something. I'm currently playing around with design issues, and I'm interested in, do people really want to click on some dot on the floor to move to the next scene, or do they like to click the forward and backward arrows, or do they like to select the scene off of a Google map, or maybe they want it off of a menu selection? Do I need to have all of those methods in that tour to get into the same spot? So these analytic tools are starting to allow me, the menu and the arrow are redundant, and I'm seeing that not broken down to a scene level, that generically people are using the arrows to move around in the tour more than they are. Arguably, this is a very limited amount of data, but I'm seeing the same thing on a larger data set. People prefer, when they're in a room and they see an arrow, to click on that to hop to the next room, not to open some menu or open something and a drop down list. So that's one of the things. Let's see, what's the next one? Monetization's not a big one for me right now because I'm not making any money, but you'll find that when you're looking at analytics, Google products, it makes sense. It's all about business. So the concept of a conversion and gearing everything towards maximizing that conversion is all throughout the literature. For us, a conversion probably is requesting more information. A person hits your site, you're a virtual tour, or you're a VR content creator. So you provide services, people see your stuff, they like it, they want to get more info. That link that they click on or button that sends you the information, that's the conversion. And that's what you'll eventually see yourself trying to maximize. So that's at a high level is analytics. I'm going to go ahead so there's something called Explore. This is a very powerful section. You'll find that I don't spend this report section right here, which is the canned reports. I don't spend a lot of time in this one. I like going to Explore, though again, learning curve, and I'm a bit stumped at the moment on this. And this is where you create your own custom reports, different types. You got pie charts and different types of different type of stuff. And you create a report, and then you can save those as a pre-canned report. And these are not all that I want. They're not refined enough, but you'll start to see, given the code that I presented earlier, installed on your page, you start to collect this type of data back, and what can you look at? The first one would be, just like I said, the scene, object, menu, and arrow count, just a quick count of what is the activity within that virtual tour. I click on this. I had already set this up before. I'm going to go ahead and close these. I'll show that in just a second. But this is a report pulling in real time. It makes sense that I've got in this tour that this one's looking at right now, there's not a lot of interactivity. There's not a lot of hot spots. So people are bumping around between scenes mostly, but I can count. And I'm stumped at the moment on breaking the actual scene down. I have totals. But ideally, I see this broken down. In this virtual tour, I have 200 locations. I'll show it to you here in just a second. It's a virtual tour of West Virginia, history, culture, and stuff. 200 locations, not a lot of interactivity in it, but it does have something that I'm quite interested in, which is, let me show it to you now here, the tour. Okay, so this is a virtual tour of West Virginia. It's supposed to be for tourism. It had this menu system on the side where I've got entire cities. Harper's Ferry, if you've ever been to Harper's Ferry, it has all of the historic buildings inside Harper's Ferry. You click on one of these. See, again, I have no hot spots in the room. I'm not moving people between scenes. It's more of a historical piece, but here I have this window at the top. I open it. And so I have, for each of these 200 locations, I have embedded information, text that I'm placing in here. Some of them, not a lot of text. Some of them, there's some in here where I've got, okay, so I'm putting pictures. So this one, a little bit more text. Trying trying to find one. I got a couple in here that have, okay, so you're starting to see, I got some in here where I put a lot of information in the window. What I'm interested in is that information interesting? Are people, when they're clicking through here, do they actually scroll to the bottom of the window? Do they read all of the text? How much? I have a couple in here that I put in specifically to see how much text they would actually read. And so a report where these 200 locations, each one of them. So as I go through here, also, yeah, here's one. So Niagara movement, I got a little bit more text in here. If I drop, that drops me to this location. So I'm in a building here. It's talking about the start of the civil rights movement in Harpers Ferry. I'm using, this is kind of a sandbox or an experimental piece. The text that's being pulled up is OCR from the text that's on the walls. But so you get this. So now if I go back to the analytics here, and for this back to the Explorer where I've set up custom reports, I have this virtual West Virginia scroll depth that's not working entirely correct right now, but you'll see the point here. Again, I'm going to click these off, and you're seeing that it's for a period, I think I'm maybe 60 days here. It has when the session starts, what page are people coming in off of? Here's the main page. This is the one that I'm interested in. This is this virtual tour of West Virginia. I'm getting 680 events. Of those 680 events, 202 of them are scroll events. And what I'm having trouble with is that now if I click on this type of graph is called a path exploration. It's pretty cool because a little counterintuitive, but you click on this and it opens up another filter. I'm having trouble. I want to pull in. Let me pull back up these two windows here. I have in here a scroll to 90%, but I also had a percent scroll where I could pick. By default, Google Analytics just tells whether or not a person gets to 90%. That's not sufficient. You can go in and make a custom one where you can, if a person scrolls to 25, 50, 75, and then 100%, it triggers those various ones. So I apologize that I didn't get it figured out, but the last view here would be the scroll would be broken out to the individual pages that I'm seeing. And on those individual pages, it would tell me, which ones are, well, I would filter. You could come back over here to move my windows around here. You can come back down into here and I can filter out, and I can filter the event name. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the event, event name exactly matches the expression. It would be, it's supposed to be, that's where I get messed up, but I would have a graph where it would show me the tour, the 200 locations, and which of those scenes have not been scrolled all the way down. And then I would know in a report that there's maybe something, I got too much text in there, maybe it's not interesting. And that's kind of an example of analytics on that tour. I'm going to go, and I want to show you now the data set. This is the data set from the National Museum of Natural History. For last month, they were very generous. So this is live data, and they do not use, they collect their data by Google Analytics 4, right? So it comes in, but they're not using the reporting feature. They're still old school, and they dump their data down in an Excel document. And I actually sometimes I kind of prefer this. It's probably just because I don't know how to use the reporting features yet on analytics. But let's go through this data set and I'll show you. So this is GA4 data, and I'll show you how this can be used to pick up design issues and kind of how to move things around. So let's go through this kind of quickly. So again, 30 days of data. It's just an Excel download. If you're over in analytics, at the upper right of almost every data, you'll see a little download button, and you can download them into Excel. And if you're really good at the people that are analyzing this data are experts in Excel, and so they have all their own things done that way. So total 1.2 million views, 116,000 unique users. So it's a very large data set, and it's arranged in order of view, which tends to also match the event count. And so these, the top, are kind of indications of engagement. Are people liking this? And you can also see at the top here, the scene 01, that's the entry to the tour. The other two are being advertised, or they're being marketed on separate channels. And so this is the one they advertise. It's on their main page if you come in. This is one that I think is through one channel of advertising, and then this next one is through another. And so you can see that, you know, the effectiveness of how you're getting people to come into your tour. The way that these products have been built is taking advantage of the HTML pages. So rather than having a single tour that I'm trying to track the pieces within, everything is a piece. And you can see everything's an HTML page that's being tracked, and the interactions. And you can see right off the top, the items here, the URLs that have a DT on them, those are the newest virtual tour. They're also ones that have, they went to embedding all kinds of information in the tour. And you can quickly see the event count, the engagement times, and the rest. As I scroll down, I quickly, as soon as I get out of the DT ones, and I get down into their older tours, I really drop off in engagement. I got events of a couple hundred or something. It's because there's nothing in their tours. They're just kind of eye candy. You go into a room and there's a couple navigation arrows. So there's not a whole lot of activity, and they don't stay on the page very long either. If I come back up to the top here, these DT ones, I'm into the thousands of interactions. I've got people, some of these, views per user. So this one right here, minutes. I got people staying on pages for 5-6 minutes. That's kind of unusual. Now, I would look at this one right here that doesn't have a DT, yet I have it really stands out. I got a really high engagement. People are sitting on that page a lot, and they're clicking on a lot of stuff. So what's the deal with that page? I would copy that. I'm going to go over to, let me make some room on my window. So that scene is this one right here in the tour. And by looking at this, I can tell the reason is this is the brand new gallery that has all the interactivity. This one that's popping up is the entry to that gallery. It's out of an old exhibit, maybe 10 years old, but it has a lot of interactivity because it's right outside the door. People are in the exciting new tour, and they naturally come over to this one. But in this tour, I have no interactivity. I have no introduction. I'm not taking advantage of the fact that people are coming to this room, because I won't show it, but I quickly see that these next two adjacent ones, they don't share that traffic. People come to this room and they immediately back out of it. I don't have a hotspot popping anything up here. I don't have anything to lead them into the rest of the tour. So that's that. I would go back from that. I would go back and make this, probably put something here that pulls them in, something interesting. So let me go ahead and close that one out. I'm going to go back to that data set and show you another one now that's an issue. And this is this next one where I see this number 37. And I've got, just want to make sure. Hey, Lauren, you can still hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. So this next one you can see here in orange, low number, it stands out. What's going on here? I look at this link, getting back to, again, the way that this is built. This piece of work, this is a mural, a collection of art murals. It can be accessed by a hotspot that's placed on the mural, or by selecting a drop-down menu item for murals. I know in this list that second option, the second ability to get to that same piece, that same artwork is this one right here. And I see an 806. There's a problem here between these two. They should be comparable, an order of magnitude off. So let me go look at what that issue is. So I go look at the page, and this is the page that is getting the 800. But it's identical. The reason that this is getting so much traffic is these are all gigapixels. They have full descriptions, and you go through and they're just beautiful. And so people spend 5-6 minutes on this thing. So it's not the content that was the issue. So it's got to be how they're getting to it. And I didn't realize that until this morning. So that mural can be opened by clicking on this hotspot. And that's the one that is tracking, the interaction here is tracking that's the 37. So I pop that open, it opens me to this mural. I go to the next page. This is also part of it too, though. Look, here through the hotspot, I open them to this image, which I tell you is not as exciting or engaging as this image is. When I open it from the murals, when I'm over here and I click on murals, the first item that's the top of the list, again, is this one. Oh, okay, I had it wrong. Anyway, do you see the issue? The issue, though, with this hotspot is I thought I was being clever in placing the hotspot in the center of this spiral, but people don't see it. I know it's there. Let me go ahead and restart it to see if it'll. So I know it's there, but I can see now that that's getting lost. People aren't seeing that as much as they see this one. This probably needs to be moved over here in a more visible spot. It's not being accessed. So let me go show you now another, looking at the data. Here's another one in red. Big standout. What's the issue here? It's the same assets. I can see this. Here's a number 4, or the ones next to it. I mean, again, I'm orders of magnitude off from it. What's the problem? So if I click, I can grab that piece right here. I'll just show you how I do this. This is the prefix. I can go to that and go back over to this website. Well, this is the piece. I can add the extension onto that piece and get to it. But what's the problem with this image? First of all, it's kind of a boring image. It's kind of bland. There's not all of the other assets that I had in this area. They've got multiple. There's a bar here at the bottom, and you saw it with the murals. You can click through. Also it's a pretty bland description. Doesn't really say anything about it. And then when I zoom in on that, I realize I've got a blurry image here. This is not a good image. There's something wrong with this image. And I can zoom all the way in, and it doesn't look right compared to the rest of the assets. If I go to, well, it just doesn't look right. So I've got to go back and probably pull this out altogether. It's kind of an experience ruining thing for people. I mean, that's quite a drop. They're going through these things and they get to that. That's an issue. Let me get down to, so then you could, there was one other one here I thought was kind of interesting. So the virtual tour for the natural history has been up since 2007. So some of the pieces in here, some of these older things are 15 years old. And you can see that they don't really get any traffic anymore. They've been up for forever. But there's one in here that I thought was, tagged it. Yeah, here it is. So this is one that I recognize that it's an old one. It's 15. This is an old one. And it's getting, you can see the standout number there, 295, really high. And look at the interactions, like almost double the interactions of the others. Like, what's going on with this guy? All right, so I click on that. I come over to the website. I'm going to Oh, it looks like I didn't do that one. Okay, so I'll pull up the natural history, come back over to data set. Where was it? There it is. Gotta grab this part. Oops. Okay, so this is, you can see this is it's an archived past exhibit. I can look at the floor. It's from 2013, so it's 10 years old, but it's getting better interactions than the brand new stuff. The reason being, it's a really cool exhibit. It's an old one. It was called Written in Bones. It was all about kind of CSI stuff. It's full of ultra high res imagery. You can zoom in. It's had a really nice image, a graphic kind of thing here, where once you're into the images, you can bounce around between them and look at stuff. And it's just it's a fascinating subject. So in this case, I would probably go, you know, I don't control this, but if I looked at their natural history, let me get to their main page where they list all their tours. So they have their tours, they come down here, they have, current exhibits, past exhibits. You got to click on past exhibits and you go down, you got Chilean mines, Cycus, fossils, genome. Most people give up by now, right? They're not going to go any further. And there it is at the very bottom. They're, one of their most popular pieces. And it's at the bottom of the list. And so they're not really, you can rearrange this to where you introduce your past exhibits. That should be leading off the past exhibits, not reorganized at the bottom. So that's an example of how those analytics. Now I think, I was just trying to get data going on this one. But again, this was kind of showing that I have arrows to move me to a different spot. I can get to that. So this is utility flight. I can get to it by the arrow, or I can get to it by the menu. Or if I'm in the previous scene, I can get to it by the forward arrows. I'm finding in the data, almost nobody uses these forward and backward arrows, and I'm tempted to pull them off. They don't. I also finding that people don't use these panning around buttons. And I should reduce that. If I look at this toolbar, that's what, like a third, of my toolbar is being taken up with items. So these analytics you start to rethink how you're building the tour altogether. And I think, let me go back to my presentation. I think that's about it. And I'm about an hour in. So, I wanted to go through just the suite of products that I talked about. So let me close these out and I'll get to just one single page here. So let me open it up so you can see the whole thing. So here's the analytics homepage. Let's go back and see the real-time traffic reports. Real time, we'll see if anybody's been clicking. See, we've had more people clicking on it. And that was me clicking around in the tour, but I got some US, I got some more people. Somebody in I don't know how to pronounce that. Paris. Yeah. So you can see that's kind of cool. But let me jump to now Google Tag Manager. And I'm not going to go into this, but once you get analytics hooked up and you start to do the reports and you're getting data coming in and it's connected and it's working, then you can start to play around with the tag manager. And I'm not going to get into it because it's a confusing one, but it gets to, within it, you have triggers, and you'll see that I'm playing around with a scroll depth trigger, which is going to show me that for a scrolling event that will trigger this tag, and it'll report out it's on all pages at 25, 50, 75, and 100, 90 and 100%. So that's the kind of the one I'm working on right now. Google Search Console. This will be a little bit sad for me because I'm not doing so well right now, but it shows you your performance, your ranking, where I'm at right now, 38.6. Not a whole lot of impressions, but I got a lot of mistakes with my website. But it's showing me the top queries. How are people finding me? These are the search words that the few people that are clicking on my site. What are they clicking to get to me? And those would be saying it's like I'm doing an ad campaign. These would be where I would get my search terms. The search terms that I pick may not necessarily be the best or the current or the trending ones. Page experience. This is kind of a cool one. It'll show you your mobile, your desktop, how things are going. If you've got any issues with it, I think I had pages. Yeah, see, I have pages that aren't indexed. This is where if you have a sitemap, which is indexing of your page. But that's the Search Console. Google. The next one, I think, at least for virtual reality, for us, us folks, is definitely one you should be playing with, is the Google Business Profile. And I'm going to go ahead and just sign into it. This is a tool that shows you your profile that you pull up on Google Maps, the other ones, company name, where you're at, phone, things like that. But I think is kind of cool for us is, I tried it this morning. You can click on this. You can, I need to change this address, but you can you have a Google Business Profile. If you're out of your home, business, whatever, you can add photos to that. I went ahead and just uploaded a 360 image. So I can see that if you're a VR, developer or whatever, you've created your business profile, your address, put up your best 360 photos and show them on here. Kind of a cool thing for you. And if you go back to now, if I go back to it, it has one more back. Let me just go to the profile. There's some other tools in here that were performance. Yeah, I think it was under performance. Look at that. But it has people who have viewed it. What were they viewing it? Google search through a desktop, Google search through a mobile, Google Maps. So, some people were finding me through Google Maps. Searches showed less than, so again, work in progress, but you have to be able to monitor the performance, to monitor how things are doing. Let's see, Google Ads. I won't touch that one. This other one, which is called Google AdSense. And this might, you can start, I mentioned the privacy, the GDPR, that this is coming. You're going to start seeing this on your products, requests for two-factor authentication, and it's coming. It's a European and UK. Well, it's going to be enforced on you, so you got to get used to it. I want to create. Well, I don't want to create one right now. Can I cancel it? Confirm. All right, probably should be doing that, but okay. So in this AdSense is what Google AdSense is it's the ability to sell ad space on your own web page. That probably wouldn't make sense if you're you're selling VR services. You probably don't collect enough traffic in there to make any money. But perhaps this virtual West Virginia thing, if I'm producing a virtual tour of some site and I'm promoting it and I'm getting a tremendous amount of traffic coming in on it, then you can sign up for this AdSense and you can start to place ads on your page. And I'm trying to think, you go to ads, I don't want to go through it, but because I want to get to the Q&A stuff here, but it pulls up your page and you can see in real time where the ads would be placed, what they would look like. I guess if it was a West Virginia tourism, the ads that might be coming in would be beds and breakfasts or, places like that in West Virginia. If you were getting enough traffic on your site and you're doing VR services, VR content creation, maybe Google would be placing ads for Matterport cameras or, Insta360 or services or things like that. But AdSense is something to take a look at if at some point if you build up enough traffic for it. And then I think that covers everything I wanted to go over. It's a very large subject. Google Analytics is. I want to just back up to the resources, to this page right here, and this link right here, create a new GA4 account, and pull that up. So these are the Google Analytics courses. Go ahead and pull that up and then scroll down and click more. And here it has, step-by-step guides and stuff. Click on this, start your first course here. And you can also watch all of the videos. I would recommend going for a certification somewhere. Google uses Salesforce to do all of their training. Somewhere in here, yeah. They have a pre-learning survey, and you can end up getting, so you have welcome, growing, how to hook it up. It's really, Google has really good resources on how to learn this, and go for the certification. They're quite serious. I started this pre-learning survey, and then somebody called me on the phone, and I went off and dinked around for about 20 minutes, and they timed me out for a day. So it's an actual, formal certification. I would do that. And then the last thing I would do is, if you are having some issues with the whole ecosystem, it is kind of complex. SEO optimization it's kind of a cut and dry computer service. You can go to Freelancer or Upwork. I know Upwork. I'm going to show you that one really quick. And then I'll end on that. We'll open it up for questions. So you go to upwork.com, and one of the freelance outfits, and you can have find talent. And then there's a usually I just type SEO. Oops, is it not doing it? That's weird. They got a problem with their website. If you type in SEO, what you're going to find is there's some projects, AI services. You can pay $50 to have a 2-day, it would be a 2-day turnaround, an SEO audit of your website. And it's a pretty standard thing, $50. They'll come back and they'll tell you the various products that I just showed you. They're going to tell you what's wrong with your site. What is it not coming up on Search Console? Is it indexed? Do you have duplicate? Whatever else. I would get that list and then go through that as well. But I'm going to stop right there and just open it up to Q&A at this point.
Get the Q&A tab open.
Let's see. Okay, how to add. Okay, yeah, let me start from the top. Can you explain how to add custom G tag labels to 3D Vista? I'm not familiar with 3D Vista, how to do that, other than just, you're typing in that measurement ID. I don't know what data it actually collects. I do know the Matterport, the open house, they collect, it's a pretty nice report that they were putting out. And it was a graphic, just it had a scene breakdown, and it had, for each scene, how many times did they click the object, things like that. Hopefully that's good enough. Let's see, how did you get the category virtual tour next to engagement monetization? So let me go back to the analytics page. Under a lot of stuff in the way, under reports, virtual tours. So that's, I think you hit library. And so I'm creating I haven't finished this, but you can customize this menu system. I think it's under library that you go in here, and you can, create a new collection. So I got a lot of stuff around. So you're able to create your own reports, and that's what this is. It's just a customization. That those reports that I was showing you over here, Explore, where I'm trying to get a scroll depth, what's my most popular page. I'll eventually customize those reports, and then I'll have those listed under this category. If I had a client that I was working with, this property had been set up separate from my main property, I could give them admin access to that. And I think that's, again, you click on admin here at the bottom, like any other Google product, you can give a person editing or view access to this. They would come in and then they would just simplify it for your client. Just say, hey, yeah, I got your reports here. And you can even wipe these out, customize all of that. Hopefully that answers. If I don't answer your question, please let me know. What software creates tours that opens a new scene with new dress? Okay, so yeah, in Panel 2VR, all scenes are on the same HTML page. That's the same with KR Panel. You'll have typically one main launch page, and then there'll be an XML, an interface, or a skin type of a file, and that the individual scenes, or that's what's triggering. So in order to track that movement from a scene to a scene within the XML, you have to have it firing a trigger, and that's the G tag is the single tag that's installed on your HTML page. And then everything underneath that, the HTML page is called an XML. Within the XML, you have a trigger, an event that occurs. In KR Pano, it's an on new Pano. I think it's very similar in the other programs. The other event is that the person has clicked on something. I think eventually when I get further along in here, or our community, because this is kind of new to everybody, I think eventually the best practice for this will be to build a virtual tour where the elements that you're interested in, whether it's a button on a menu, it's a link, it's an icon on the floor that people are clicking on, they've all been built as a class. And I'll see if I can do this without getting myself. There's a way in which I'll get messed up. Google Analytics 4 is an event-based, so it tracks events and it collects a lot of information on an event. For example, if you have a button, like I have this button right here, home, and I click on that, it will track the page that it was on. It'll track the title. It would know home. It would track the class if there's a CSS class assigned to to put the blue background, and because that's all CSS happening right here, it would track that. It would track all these different things. And so rather than trying to place code at each scene or trying to get into that XML file, I think you want to have the Google Tag Manager at the index page, and then the tour, the elements within the tour have correct IDs, element IDs, or a class assigned to them that's unique, and then that's what you track. That's probably going to be the best way to do it. Do anything about the heat maps in a 360 image? No. Yeah, wait, heat maps. I heard about that. I saw that in one of the reports. There was something called a heat map. Don't know if that's what you're talking about.
Lauren,
Yeah.
I had a little experience with this, and the heat maps are based on the web or on the browser page. So when you move the 360 view, the heat map does not understand that you're looking at a different part of the panorama.
Okay.
It only notices where you click within the page itself.
Okay. One thing that I'm having some luck with as a KR Pano is what they refer to as deep linking in the KR Pano tour. So I'm going to go ahead and just open this tour up. You'll see here at the top of the URL bar, I'm tracking in the URL the scene I'm at and the location. You'll notice as I move that's a horizontal, vertical, and then a zoom level. So if I zoom in or out, I pick that number up. These, because this is a URL that's changing, this is being tracked. There's a problem now is that, you know, a person does this, zooms in and out, zooms in and out. I'm being overwhelmed with the data, but you can track this, what they're zooming in and what they're looking at. I wish I could filter that out because that would be very, you know, that would be important. If I'm in this room and I'm really interested, do they zoom, you know, do people zoom in and read this thing? Then could I create some type of a filter that would tell, are they looking in a zone? But I don't want to go too far, but that's, yeah. So Google Analytics, you're going to run into that. Google Analytics is built for business. It's built for selling things. It's very powerful for virtual tour, but we kind of have to shovel some things in to and kind of fix things up a little bit. Oh, thank you. Oh, now, thank you. Oh, okay. I'm going to go ahead and drop in the chat is just the, oh no, person says I don't understand anything. Oh, sorry about that. If this is a very complex subject, and I wasn't attempting to try to show you how to do it. The resources kind of give you kind of an overview of it. Please ask me any questions. You got my direct contact. I'm going to go ahead and just drop the PDF in here again. It has links in it and it has my information. It'll come across in a second. So please let me know if you have, write me offline. I'm kind of in a learning curve for this. So especially if you see something that I'm doing wrong or could do better, love to know about it. Yeah, the heat map question again. Yeah, that would be useful. I think that's it. I think I went through the questions.
That's about it. Just post that PDF and
yeah, it's still loading. It's 2 meg. Yeah, I think that when I went out and I looked at the forums and, you know, the Facebook pages and stuff, I did kind of a trade study on this. It was pretty obvious that not a lot of work has been done in how to actually use this. There's some work done in how to implement it, how to hook it up to start collecting, but I really didn't see a lot of stuff on, you know, what are the best practices. I didn't see any reports other than the one from Open House for Matterport. That was what I would say would be in a format that I would hand to a client and say, you know, here's the favorite scenes in your tour or whatever. It's not, I'm overwhelmed with the data. I feel like I'm using an enterprise level business tool, and I'm going to have to do some work to figure out how to get it to display the information, you know, stripped down to what's important to me. And hopefully as a community that we can develop that best practice. That's really the point of our organization, is to start these types of collaborations. And hopefully people will follow up with this presentation and you know, implement the code and see how things are going for you. That KR panel code is working for me. I will tell you that I am experiencing one issue that I think is going to be a real problem for us, is that the tracking data off of my tour that's running on a server is clean. I'm getting it. I click, you know, like 5 times in scene 1, and then I jump, and then I wait, and I can see that data. When I hand it over to my client who's using Drupal in a SharePoint, they start over-reporting. They're getting a little bit more. And I think there's like a window within a window or double firing or something. And we're trying to work that out. But that's a complex issue to try to figure out. Something works on my, you know, VPS type of a server. And then I move it over to a big time enterprise, you know, running Drupal with a SharePoint, and it's not firing. It's not collecting the same data. That's a difficult one to figure out. So that's where I'm at, but I'll stop there. Is there any other, I'm looking at the webinar chat. There's some things in the chat here too. Some good questions. Screen share. Okay, I'm seeing some questions about the PDF. Hopefully people have gotten the PDF now.
Seems like it. It's there for everybody to get.
Yeah, the last comment here about the iframe. Yeah, you're that's what I think as well. That when you pop these things up in iframes, you can tend to get double reporting, or it's not as clean of analytics. And I think that's just a learning curve on my part. When you saw me when I went to that virtual tour of West Virginia, and it was triggering. But I don't want to collect my own data because I'm looking at it all the time. So I know that I haven't done that yet, but there's a way in which you can filter out me or other users and stuff. So, okay, I think that's
Next webinar.
yeah. Let me go pull a PDF up here, and we'll just to make sure I read it correctly. And
Our elections are coming up next month, so we have a call for candidates for the board. Please consider it. We could use your help. And if you don't want to be on the board, we would love to have you working with us on a committee or on something. We got lots of things to do here. We're working on rebuilding the website and working on getting a conference together in amongst other things.
so next month will be VR effectiveness. We'll be looking at VR as a teaching tool, as an empathy. There's some interesting psychology experiments that they've done with spatial memory, things like that. So we're going to be looking at getting away from the mechanics of it and trying to just theory and hopefully come up with a way when you're selling these products to tell your clients how they're effective. What are they good for? After that, we have holidays, and then following in 2024, digital twins, 360 video, and by all means, as the other Lauren said, we invite people to come in and give us presentations. We just had the one on the marketing. Our last webinar was on marketing, so we have a person coming. They'll be doing our digital twin. One of our board members from Boeing will be that. I'm really excited about that one because that's going to be true engineering, digital twin stuff. And then 360 video. That's an area that I'd like to start to touch, to get into. We've been heavy on virtual tours, but it's VR is not just virtual tours. It's immersive and it's XR really. So we want to open it up and grow it a little bit. Just commenting on there was a comment in there on the PanoTour Pro. If you are using PanoTour Pro, that is an easy one to add the 3 pieces of code that I gave you to. So give that a shot. The trigger, the action, and then you add your own G tag on your HTML page. So a PanoTour Pro, open up the index.html, add the G tag code, open up the main tour.xml, place the action that I gave you there, and then place the triggers within the scenes or attach that to the object hotspot. If you have any questions about that, how to do it in a PanoTour Pro, write me and I'll give you a hand on that.
To wrap it up, members only are able to access the videos of this webinar afterwards. Non-members are not. And we have several webinars coming up that I'm sure you would want to be a part of. So you need to join to be a part of that. Did we get it covered, Scott?
Yep. I believe so. We want to make most of the webinars live available to anybody. It'll be the recordings on demand that will be members only. But there's a wealth of information on the website that you will be able to access as a member. So if you're not a member, please consider joining. Other than that, if there's any other questions, please ask them. But again, another really great webinar.
Thank you, Lauren.
All right, thank you. Appreciate everybody. And
thank you,
again,
everybody, for showing up.
Let me know if you have any questions on it. I'm in a learning process myself. And thank you. Some of the people have commented in here and they've helped me, the Ghosterly and things like that. So keep it going. It'd be nice to develop a best practice out of analytics for us. All right. Thank you, everybody.